Pikwakanagan. Hello, everyone. We are so incredibly grateful to be here today amongst you all. I would like to humbly introduce you all to Anishinabe Odjibikan. Anishinabe Odjibikan means Anishinaabe roots in our Anishinabe, our Algonquin language. We chose this name because we wanted to incorporate the language. As well, the name describes both how we are the roots, the descendants of our ancestors, and how we are connected to the earth through our work, both physically and spiritually. Our logo features Mother Earth with her hair symbolized as the roots, as you could see in the slideshow. She is uplifting the mokumon, which is the knife, the genesis of our program. So as you gathered, we are an archaeological field school with hopes to becoming an established program in Ottawa, which is our traditional territory, which brings me to my next point. I would like to start with a land acknowledgement. Toronto is located on the traditional territory of the Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Chippewas, the Mississauga of the Credit. As well, I would like to mention, as I said earlier, that Anishinabe Odjibikan operates in this country's capital, which is Ottawa, on unceded Anishinabe Algonquin territory. The two Algonquin communities, Pikwakanagan and Kitigan Zibi, which comprise our members. We are located on the north and the south side of the Kitchissippi, which is the Ottawa River. Miigwech. Oh wait, sorry. Now I would like to run through what we're gonna go through in this 90-minute session with you all today. So firstly, we're gonna do, well, we did that, I guess, an introduction. Doug will start you guys off with the origin of how we came to be in Anishinabe Odjibikan. And then Kyle will do the strategic partnership initiative and who's involved in our program. And then we're gonna have experiences from our original members, which our field school started in last summer in 2021. And then as well, students from this past summer in 2022. And then we'll just have some things about protecting our history in the National Capital Region and our goals for the future. And then we'll have my grandmother, Joan Tenasco and Jenny Tenasco, talk about the culture, the language, and education. And then lastly, we'll have a Q&A at the end. So with that being said, I'd like to invite Doug up to talk about the origin of our field school and how we came to be.
Pikwakanagan, Miigwech Jennifer. I feel like I'm on some sort of test here. I'm going to put my timer on. So I got my time. It's going to probably go off in 9 minutes. That'll give me my 1 minute time. I'm very proud of this group. Doug Ojik, Indigenous cause, Kitigan Zibi Anishinabeg. My name is Doug Ojik. I'm from Kitigan Zibi. I'm a council member. I was involved with I guess, being the portfolio holder in culture. We were contacted regarding a projectile that was found on the Parliament building during the rehabilitation. Both communities, Kitigan Zibi and the Algonquins of Pikwakanagan, were contacted to just to let us know we found a projectile, and we didn't know what to make of it at first. So this was about 3 years ago, around this time, and early 2020 in March, we managed to get together. It was an informal meeting. We asked the ADM who is responsible for the rehabilitation of the whole Parliamentary Precinct, I guess you can call it. And we got together at the National Arts Center. There was a a meeting going on. Actually, it was the Indigenous Awards, so I said, come on across the road and meet with us, you know. Meet with myself and now Chief Wendy. Back then it was Councillor Wendy of Pikwakanagan. And so next thing, you know, we met with the ADM Rob Wright, PSPC, and he brought with him the engineer from the archaeological engineering firm and the guy who actually found the projectile from WSP, and he brought raw notes with him and a photograph of the projectile. We didn't actually see it back then. We just seen a photograph and about where it was found. It was found right at pretty much at the doorstep at the west side of the Parliament buildings, and we didn't know what it was then. We just knew it kind of looked like a spearhead, like it shows right there. We managed to get together in March. Okay, at that time we said, okay, well, we have to talk more about this, and but before we talk more next time, why don't you think about once we know what this is, we'll tell the story about it and give us a land acknowledgement since you found it right on your doorstep, and we could talk more about it once we find out what it actually is. Early March of in 2020, when we met at that informal meeting, we were closed down for pretty well a year right there. COVID hit, and we couldn't get to see each other anymore after that until about a year later. When we met again, it was with a group of archaeologists, friends of Ian Batchley. He was able to contact and get together people that he knew that would help us identify what this projectile was. And it was determined at this meeting, along with the people at PSPC, that it was indeed a knife, a worn down knife. And this was true records, and they had like an old a notebook of findings, I guess they would have found up north, and there they say, well, it's actually a knife, and it's not a spearhead. It's not what you thought. We were guessing for a while what it might be, but everyone agreed, including Ian, that it was indeed a worn down knife, and this. Now we said, okay, we're going to call it Mokamon. I knew the word in our language. It's knife, Mokamon, and well, let's call it Mokamon from now on for the purpose of how we're going to move forward. And so we did, and they said it's also somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,500 to 5,000 years old. And it's from northern New York, southern Ontario, Niagara region. So it's traveled a ways to get to us. Now, okay, great. What's that knife doing over here? And well, Ottawa is actually a meeting place of many nations. So back then, it's pre-contact times. So I guess we're talking about people traveling from long distances to make trades, and the river routes were our highways back in the day. They still are actually, and so many of the rivers from the ocean, from the east, from the north and south, all eventually connect, and you could get to Ottawa. And you'd ask, why Ottawa? Well, back in the day before the dams were in place, the rivers all arrived through there in rapids, And so people came to gather there, and there was one rapid particularly was called the Kitigan Zibi. Well, that's what we later called it, but it's basically a sacred falls, and it had steam coming up from it. So I guess it represented smoke, and so that was a place for people to worship and to pray, and it would also been a big portage place because it was the bigger of the rapids. There was other portages for the other rivers because they all landed there in rapid-like form when you come to the Kitigan Zibi River. So that being said, why go trade there? Well, of course we're trading. We need to you want to trade because you need materials. You need to see people. You need to rekindle relationships. You're trading actually finished goods. You're trading raw materials. You're trading knowledge of how to do this, because some people will probably end up leaving with some nations, and some nations will probably stay, and next thing you know, you'll have blended nations, but with blending nations, you're also blending the knowledge that comes with them, and so my theory on some of the pottery that is found that is very old as well. Some of the things that are dated, carbon dated, are around 8,000 years old in the Ottawa region. There's, I guess it's, there's evidence to show that there was civilization around there around 10,000 years ago, but we got carbon dating going about 8,000 years ago. And with that, I truly believe in my heart that, you know, even though there's going to be Huron pottery found there, well, that was brought in by trade, as so was many other materials that were found from far distances, from all four directions. People gathered there to trade, and in the end, if you're going to see, for example, a Huron pottery design, but made of local materials, it doesn't mean as it was first said to me that the Algonquins are making knockoff Huron pottery like made in China kind of deal. But I don't think that was the deal. I really believe that some Huron stayed and showed us how to make that. Or when they came, they made that with the local materials there, rather than carrying all this stuff from where they came from. So I don't think it was made in China knockoff by Algonquins pottery at that time. So that's my theory, anyways. At the same time, why gather in that place, you know? Well, you're going to have like thousands and thousands of people gathering there, and there's proof of that because of the area that was widespread and places that were found with pre-contact artifacts up and down the rivers on both sides of the rapids, on both sides of every river. It was what they call nowadays the American eel. I guess back then it was just the river eel, and so the eel was the main source of food, and so like at certain times of the year, you're going to have your adult eels going to return to the sea to spawn and die, whereas the other ones are coming back up to go up to the river to live until it's their turn to return to the sea and do their thing, spawn and die with their life of the circle of life. So that being said, you know, while you're going to meet, you want to have food, And so it's easy catch because it's there's rapids there, and you just have to gather your way of catching the eels either at the top or the bottom of each sets of rapids. And so you have 3 sets of rapids right there meeting. And so I have a funny feeling that the place there was just swarming with eels and very plentiful for food for people to gather. So it makes sense for me that they would choose that place for a gathering spot, because you're not also like carrying food to live there for months or going hunting, leaving the place. You're staying there and you're fed while you're there. And so that's a little bit about why I feel it's a meeting place. What came of our discussions as well was when we met again, in the next time we met before, probably about a year later from 2020, early 2021, we said, can we start that field school that we talked about when we first met? And they said, yeah, we can endorse that. And they did. They endorsed us for a pilot project of this summer, the 2021 summer. And it was a group from Kitigan Zibi, a group from Algonquins of Pikwakanagan. The pilot season went really well. Everyone was proud of how it turned out. And with that, they sponsored us. They endorsed, PSPC endorsed the group to continue for an additional 3 years from there. So they're going to continue. This 2022 was year 1 of that next 3 years. So they'll continue another 2 years in the field and in the lab with a lot of help from Ian. Ian took them under his wing, and Ian's partner in crime, Monica Micah, I always mix up how to pronounce your name, but they've been helping the group how to analyze and how to dig and record. We're very proud of the collaboration of everyone. I'm really proud of this group. I know what Pikwakanagan leadership is as well, and I just wanted to say that from the bottom of my heart. I am truly proud of you, and they even gave me one of these today. I feel like I'm part of the team now, and so that's a little bit about how things got started, and in the end, we did get our land acknowledgement. During the time of the 2021 season, we were, myself and a councillor from Pikwakanagan were I guess, kind of negotiating with the ADM of PSPC, and they always say, welcome to Algonquin Anishinaabe territory. But they say it, but they never wanted to write it down. And so we said, well, you're always saying it, so what's the hurt in writing it down? In the end, I guess ADM Rob Wright stuck his neck out and said, okay then, guys. What else do you want to say? Well, we also want to say the story of the Mokaman. So in the end, we got two big billboards that are part of the construction hoarding, so that's kind of like going right across the Parliament Hill. One that shows the story of the Algonquin Anishinaabe, and one that shows the story of the Mokaman. And those are, to me, they're good milestone steps of acknowledgement and support and collaboration between the federal government and the two communities. And I'm very happy with how that turned out. and I hope it continues and that it grows. And I know that our group will be talking a little bit on that. And so that's all I wanted to say. I wanted to say thank you for coming. Regards, Doctor, I twisted your arm to come here yesterday.
I would have been here anyway.
Yeah, so regards for coming, and I was rounding up some troops yesterday to try to come over here. So thank you. Kichi miigwech ki bijaya kapina.
Thank you, Doug, for that good opening. I'd like to just walk us through our partnership and everything that's gone into Anishinabe Odjibikan. So this program is funded through the Strategic Partnership Initiative. We are funded by Indigenous Services Canada. And so this partnership allows government agencies to engage with First Nation communities and to develop relationships with them. This partnership is comprised of Kitigan Zibi Anishinabeg from Quebec, Algonquins of Pikwakanagan First Nation from Ontario, as well as our government partners, Public Service and Procurement Canada, and the National Capital Committee. As well, we also have a list of honorables, as you can see. Algonquin College, who gave us space to complete our lab work in the first year. CCI in Parks Canada, who graciously invited us to visit and tour their facilities, and they in turn returned to our work sites to visit us. The Canadian Museum of History, who our first instructor, Pierre de Rosier, is the curator of archaeology, as well as our standing LOA with the Canadian Museum of History. And last but not least, we got to make a wonderful connection with Muscaugan First Nation from Saskatchewan. They came to visit us, and through Jim Mountain, we've made some pretty strong connections, which will be beneficial to all of us. That's it.
So thank you, Kyle, for that, going over the partnerships. So next, I would like to share with everyone our experiences in the field school. I think it's important to hear from our participants because you'll be able to hear our stories and how it's affected us, as well as how we operate and so forth. As well, this is, for most of these people here, it's the first time that they're talking in a big audience. So it's an experience for them as well to just be here. So yeah, with that being said, I'd like to begin with my own experiences? Yeah. So Pikwakanagan, Jennifer Tenasco Nadijnakas, Kitigan Zibi Anishinabeg. Hello, my name is Jennifer Tenasco. I'm 23 years old from Kitigan Zibi, and I'm a 2021 and 2022 field school student participant. Yeah. And I am a recent graduate from the University of Ottawa with a Bachelor of Social Sciences. I just want to start by saying working with Anishinabe Odjibikan is the most fulfilling experience I've had in my lifetime. For me, this experience reminded me a lot about growing up. I did a lot of sports in my childhood and not too long ago. And during my university experiences, I was a track and field athlete with the University of Ottawa, a GG. Yay. So I've been doing sports my whole life. And it's something that shaped me growing up. One thing I learned that transferred over from sport to our field school is the idea of community. And that's what I love the most about our field school and these people. In the summer of 2021, we came together for the first time. There were 8 of us. Together, we learned how to dig, take stratigraphy, use a theodolite, work our way with a trowel, and much more. We were all new in the field of archaeology. However, we learned fast, and as we worked together, we created great relationships amongst each other and for our communities. We were a very small group, and we were able to connect based on our shared history and similar backgrounds. Fast forward to the summer, we now had 16 participants, double of what we had our previous year. We had 6 returning participants and 10 new participants. From there, it was easy to reconnect and become familiar with the new students. We established goals and dreams for the future within archaeology. And to no surprise, we all had similar goals we would like to see going forward. When reflecting back to our summer, I recognize that we all hold the same history. However, we are all different in our own ways. We were able to take advantage of our unique strengths and gifts to build on what our field school is today, Anishinabe Odjibikan. Firstly, we have Jade Baptiste, who is a participant from this year's field school. She is a talented artist who created our logo from scratch. Dakota Kamanda, who is passionate about our Algonquin language and is working towards a lexicon for our group to help revitalize our language along with our culture. Brighton Bodaway, who is in charge of our communication side of things and is a pro at social media. He is also an amazing speaker and presenter. Sadly, he couldn't be here today. And lastly, Jenna Lanigan, who's been working with the NCC and in archaeology for the last couple of years. She is super knowledgeable in archaeology, and we all learn a lot from her. These are just a couple of the ways I've seen our group come together as a community and as a team. It's been such an honor to experience this and to work alongside with everyone from the two communities, NCC, PSPC, etc. As for myself, I became very passionate about archaeology. And being a recent graduate, I've already started looking amongst different archaeological programs at different schools in Canada. In the next coming years, I wish to further my post-secondary education in archaeology. If you were to ask me where I see myself in 10 years, I would say doing this. I love digging, I love learning, and I love working in archaeology. Without this field school, I would have never known the possibilities in terms of school and employment, and just to be friends with everyone here. Anishinabe Odjibikan has done a lot for me, and I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to learn and to be a part of something great. Miigwech. Next, I'd like to invite Kyle to talk about his experience.
Kwayani, Kan Adishnikas, Makwa Nadodem, Pikwakanagan Nadonjaba. Hi, my name is Kyle Starson. I'm from Pikwakanagan. I first found out about the field school through my sister, who was working in the office at the time. She had said they were having issues with participation. I believe it was because we were dealing with COVID, lateness in the field season, those types of things. I was told to send in an application if I was interested, and after doing so, I soon found myself in the capital, staying in a hotel, waiting to meet who would eventually become my very good friends and colleagues. At first, I really didn't know if archaeology was something I would like or even enjoy doing. I had just dropped out of college the year before, and I came home with zero money to my name. I spent the entire summer leading up to the field school doing nothing. Needless to say, I was probably at my lowest point in terms of self-image, motivation, and happiness. I can't stress how important the opportunity to participate in this program was for me. It pretty much single-handedly pulled me up and set me on my way on a new course. For the first time and maybe forever, I had purpose and direction. I first started about 2 weeks late. There were some things that I missed in the setup of an archaeological site. I would later pick those things up, through experience and working well and learning while on the job. A lot of that this year, to be honest. It took some time for me to open up and really engage with the others in the work. I really have to give my thanks to Jennifer for being the one who helped me get out of my shell. It may just be her personality, but she was the first one to really talk to me, so it helped a lot, and I couldn't just ignore her. When I was finally comfortable with the work and my surroundings, the weeks just seemed to fly by. It was fun and meaningful. We had an elder visit us from Kitigan Zibi in the first couple weeks, and she had left a lasting impression on me. She had come to speak with us, and she had told us to make sure we took the time to hold the artifact and to think and to contemplate that these objects and tools were things that our ancestors had made and held, and that we were able to make the same connection to them through the discovery and rescue of these artifacts. I would hear this teaching from the elder, and I would find myself conflicted because I wasn't fully embracing the work and the potential that this program had. I think my confidence was gone because I had chosen something to go to school for, and it didn't work out. My decision-making had let me down. But the internal conflict would lead to moments like when I first met Ian Badgley. He's one of our mentors and instructors, a man who has arguably been one of our biggest supporters outside of the communities. When I first met him in the early weeks of the fieldwork, I didn't know who he was. And I basically told him I wasn't sure if I really liked archaeology. It was the wrong answer because someone like Ian could be a well of knowledge and a pillar of support. But it wouldn't be until this year that I really got to know him, and he's become a huge inspiration to me. I can only hope to ever become as passionate and experienced as he is. So a big thank you to him. Eventually, our time in the field school came to an end, and we moved on to complete the lab portion of the field school at Algonquin College. They provided us with a space where we could process the artifacts, the cleaning, the sorting, identifying, and cataloging. It was a nice change of pace, as well as being able to see the other side of the work that needs to be done. Seeing a different avenue in which you could work in archaeology in terms of being like a lab technician, or if you couldn't be in the field like Brighton because of his disability, there were other ways you could find to work in archaeology. We also got chances to look at different interprofessional careers that a youth could see and maybe find interest in through our field school. Like photography. We had an excellent source in PJ LaRue, a photographer from Pikwakanagan. He gave a little seminar to show us how to use the camera, that type of thing when taking pictures. As well, a professor from Algonquin College who ran the museology program. I believe his name is Terry, but I'm missing the last name. Quinlan, there, thank you. He had showed us around the workshops that the museology program used, and it was very, it was a good thing to see that if archaeology, if the field work wasn't for you, then there were other avenues in which you could work around the same type of work. It was also a nice connection because our instructor that year, Pierre DeRose, he himself was the curator at the Canadian Museum of History, and it was nice to make that connection between the program, the museology program, and to see what he could do as a curator. So to see these opportunities and possibilities from a humble field school is very promising, to say the least. After the summer, when the field school had finished, I was given the opportunity to continue working for my reserve. As a field liaison, I got to participate in multiple stages of archaeological assessment around our territory through engagement with different archaeological consultants and proponents. I was also recruited to work a different position in my community in a different program that would give me administrative experience and keep me involved in the field school behind the scenes. Through this, I became the representative of AOPFN in our working group. I pressed the button, sorry. I was able to take on a supervisory role during the field school this year. The experience so far has been super enlightening in both in terms of how much I enjoy and can excel at this type of role, but also where I need to improve and learn from this experience. To end, because I'm sure we're all sick of listening to me. The focus of our program is not employment, but it is an avenue for our youth to gain employment while taking on the responsibility of becoming stewards of the land, specifically regarding our archaeological resources. And I would just like to stress the importance of programs like Anishinabe Odjibikan. The opportunities can and will save the youth, but also save our legacy. Miigwech.
Hi. Wait, is this working? Okay. Hi, Kwe. My name is Drew Tanasco, and I'm a participant from Kitigan Zibi, student/participant from Kitigan Zibi. I'm going to be sharing my experiences from the field school. Before I start, I'll just give a little introduction of how I found out about the field school. So I first found out about the field school in our community flyers, and I participated in the field school in 2021. I joined at the time knowing very little about what archaeology was, but it looked interesting and I thought I would try it out. Personally, I'm not really an outdoorsy person, and that's half the job. So I kind of didn't think I would like it. And I never would have thought that when I found my first artifact, I would be so excited and eager to learn about what it was. When I first found that artifact, when I first found the artifact, it was a weird feeling for me. As a lot of us would all probably say, when you're holding an artifact, the first thing I found was a flake. Like, you realize that this was in the ground for hundreds to thousands of years, and it was last used by my ancestors. And having it in my hand in that very moment, it was just very cool to me. In school, I wasn't taught a lot about my culture, and what I was taught about was from a very biased perspective. And through archaeology, I was able to learn so much more than what I learned in school. For example, I had no idea how advanced toolmaking was from my ancestors, and when I was learning about it, I just felt so proud of being who I was, and I was sharing all of this information with my friends and family, and it gave me a great desire to want to pursue this in the future, and I encouraged a lot of people to look into it and learn more about it. When I would talk to everyone at the field school, that I would realize I wasn't the only one that felt this way. We all in different ways had strong interest in this field. For example, we'd all just be out there and we'd be talking about our different theories when we'd have like artifacts in our hand. We'd like think about what life was like back then for our ancestors, and we'd all just like, it was all just so like, it was just so cool to see how passionate everyone was, and it made me realize it was very important for Anishinaabe and Indigenous youth to be participating and learning in archaeology. Our group has grown a lot since then, since we all met, and we've been all growing our skills in archaeology, and it gave us many great opportunities, such as this conference. But preparing for this conference was something very new for all of us, as Jen said. We did lots of preparing and meetings, and finding time to meet was all very hard at some points, but we were all super excited. And because we were so passionate, we were able to find the time and create what we did together. For some of us, it was the first time taking the train, being in a big city alone, and just meeting with a bunch of new people as well. It was very exciting, and it was also super overwhelming, but we were thankful to have all the support that we have. They really helped us, not just here, but also when we were in the field. Whenever we'd have ideas, they would help us bring it to life. when we started, we all wanted to have opening ceremonies because that's something that was from our culture, and we thought it was very important to bring it into our work. So we were so grateful that everyone is so supportive and helpful with everything. Honestly, we can all probably talk about this all day, but we do have a time limit, so I just wanted to end there. But I also just wanted to thank my sister. She made us all these medallions. You're gonna hear a lot of thanking today too. But I just wanted to give a special little shout out there. Miigwech.
Hello. It's Jenna. I don't know if it works. I just talk loud. Well, I haven't done public speaking since about the 6th grade. So if I get a little quiet, I'm sorry for shaky, but kwe hello bonjour. Jenna Nidishkas Makwanandodam Pikwakanagan Nadonjiba. My name is Jenna. I am Bear Clan and a member of the Algonquins Pikwakanagan First Nation, and for the last 2 years, I've been an active field liaison supervisor for Anishinabe Odjibikan. I am currently 23 years old and a student at the University of Ottawa, completing my Honors Bachelor's of Science in Biology. The 2021 and 2022 field school was not my first experience in archaeology. In 2017, I first learned that being in Gabeshanon, referred to as the National Capital Region, meant stepping on the same land that my ancestors did. It is also the same year I met Ian Badgley, the NCC archaeologist, while working at the Gabeshanon Minitik Pavilion. 2 years later, I was exceptionally lucky to work as a student archaeologist for the NCC with Ian as my boss. But he wasn't only my boss, he was my mentor, my friend, and my inspiration. One of the things Ian told me that really stuck with me and kept me interested in archaeology when I felt conflicted between my passions was that it's not necessarily the artifact that matters, but the person behind it, the person who made it. Because of him and my last few years with the field school, my passion for archaeology became something I didn't want to let go, something I didn't want to be just a hobby or a summer job. But at the same time, I didn't want to lose my dream of pursuing a future in biology. This is where I decided to pursue a career involving both of them in bioarchaeology with the goal of supporting and giving back to my community. So thank you, Ian. Supervising the last 2 field seasons of Anishinabe Odjibikan has been undoubtedly the most rewarding experiences I had the pleasure of being a part of. As you came to learn and will come to learn, our participants are very passionate about what we are doing. They keep me motivated and almost keep me in line. When COVID-19 hit, I struggled a lot with my mental health, and it felt like there was no way out. Then suddenly, I'm thrown into a place where I'm responsible for our youth, I'm being looked up to and depended on to share my teachings, while at the same time, I have no idea what I'm doing. Because of archaeology, I felt I had a purpose. I felt I had my life back. I had motivation to get out of bed, which was very hard for me. Without Anishinabe Odjibikan, I would still be conflicted about who I want to be and where I want to go. So thank you, guys. One of my most rewarding experiences as a supervisor was in our first year, and it was one of our first finds. Drew came up to me, and she's like, I know this is something. It's got to be something. And she held it out to me. And I'm like, I know you know what it is. And I flipped it around for her, and she's like, oh my God, it's a point. And she just ran around telling everybody, and it felt really good. It felt really good. Seeing the field school grow from 4 participants to 8 in our first year, then all the way to the 16 in our second year, with 6 of them returning, really gives me a strong sense of pride that I've never really felt before. Being able to see Jennifer, Drew, and Kyle grow and take on roles as co-supervisors alongside of me, and then seeing Alina and Dakota come back, as well as Derek, Emma, and Brooke, who are here with us today. I just don't know what I'd be able to do without them. Not only this, but it also brings a sense of hope for the goals we all have for the field school. Seeing us become a permanent year-round program, rescuing and preserving eroding archaeological sites, and becoming stewards of our own legacy will always be something we are aiming for. Not only did I gain pride in my professional life, so my workplace and my future, I gained pride in my home life, in my culture, in my family. Despite being raised in the city and being only on reserve every holiday or for summer vacations, it led to a lot of negative feelings for me. I had a lack of sense of community, misplaced feelings of not belonging, and even feelings of shame towards my culture. My parents tried to keep me as far away as possible, and it led to a huge disconnection between my cousins, my grandparents, and even them. I held a lot of resentment for this. Because of this field school, I pushed and looked for answers. I needed to know where I came from, and my drive for this really motivated my parents to look into where they come from. And that's really helped me in my drive to keep going. So I'd like to say, again, thank you to Ian, thank you to Monica, and thank you to Joan, and as well, thank you to Bob Clark, who is not here with us today. Not that he's dead, but like, not here today.
Thank you, Jenna. So that concludes our hearing our experiences from our 2021 field school students. Next, we're going to go into this past summer, our field students. And so I'd like to hand it off to Emma to start us off.
Hi. So, Kwe Emma Nadijnakas Makwanadodem Pikwakanagan Nadonjiba. Hi, my name is Emma, and I'm currently attending Carleton University, completing a bachelor's in Indigenous Studies. And just being a part of this field school has given me a passion for archaeology, and relating it to my Indigenous studies has just broadened my interest for Indigenous archaeology in Canada. In the beginning of COVID-19 pandemic, I was in online school for 2 years, and coming to the archaeology field school was such a positive change for me. I have never got the opportunity to learn about archaeology before, like not in school ever, and being in this field school was such an educational and fun time. I have moved away from my First Nations reserve, Pikwakanagan, a couple years back, and being a part of this experience has made me feel completely at home. Working with the land that our ancestors were once working on has been a sacred experience for me, and even though it was a full-time job, every day felt spiritual. Studying Indigenous history in school and working in the capital of Canada, I have always known my ancestors were living on this land that is our unceded Algonquin territory, but I didn't realize there were areas in the Ottawa Valley that had like physical traces of my ancestors' early civilization. So holding the artifacts in my hands gave me like true feelings of belonging and connection, knowing they were made by my family, my relations. And these artifacts hold the stories and power of our history. Working with our sister reserve was an experience I was looking for all my life. I never got the chance to like really ever connect with other Algonquins from another reserve, and I even got to meet some of my cousins for the first time, and I just made deep connections that I know will last my whole life. And I wanted to thank Ian Badgley for being a part of this opportunity that was given to us, for being a part of the field school and being our teacher. Ian has given us so many teachings about our Indigenous archaeological history. And I also wanted to give thanks to our field technicians, Monica and Bob, for just being by our side throughout the digs, showing us the ropes and the rules of archaeology. And overall, just a big thank you to NCC, PSPC, and ISK for the ongoing support they have given us throughout our time in the field school. The opening and closing ceremonies are so important to us as Anishinaabe people. We are digging into Mother Earth and taking these artifacts from her that she has been holding onto and protecting for thousands of years. We also do ceremony to honor the water and give thanks. We recognize this and just want to do our archaeology with the utmost respect. And doing our ceremonies before digging, we will say a prayer, sing traditional songs, and just honor the ancestors that were once here. And just to honor Mother Earth for protecting the artifacts. And I'm just so appreciative I got this to be a part of this opportunity and being in the field school and all the extraordinary teachings I have been receiving. I hope to be back like this summer and continue my education on Indigenous archaeology. Kachimi Gwech for having us. Thank you.
Kwe, my name is Brokawati. I'm 20 years old and I'm from Kitigan Zibi and Rapid Lake, which is another community just about an hour and a half from Kitigan Zibi. To start off, I want to say how grateful I am for this experience and opportunity to be able to speak at this conference. I'm glad we can share who we are with you all. I started this year when Anishinabe Odjibikan didn't have a name or a logo during their second year of operation. I found out about Anishinabe Odjibikan from my friend who was in the program in 2016 before it became an established field school. At first, I didn't see myself wanting to pursue a career path in archaeology like a lot of us here. But when I saw the first year field school students, I got inspired by them. I wanted to do what they were doing because it looked like meaningful work, especially being Indigenous. I had the chance to not only rediscover who our ancestors were and their different ways of life, but I was given the opportunity to have a first-hand experience with a possible career path. I was allowed to work hands-on at these historic sites, and it meant a lot to me considering how much meaning they held. They were gathering sites for a lot of Anishinabe Algonquin communities in the area, and the fact that we can come together and work at the same place is amazing to me. They were working hard making these tools for their everyday life, and we're working hard trying to find them. I appreciated how it's possible for Indigenous youth to work in a field where we choose what is going to be done and how it's going to be done. We chose to have some of our aspects of our work be fulfilling to our cultures and beliefs. I think this is a once-in-a-lifetime thing where Anishinaabe and Indigenous youth, if they want to, they can be the stewards of archaeology in their own lands. I never got the chance to be a part of something like this, so it makes me feel positive and hopeful for what's to come with my future with Anishinabe Odjibikan. Learning and spending time with the other students is something I'll also never forget to cherish. I look at these people sitting beside me not only as my teachers, but also as my friends. The first year students and NCC archaeologists taught me everything I needed to know to perform on-field work like troweling, stratigraphy, and test pitting. I was also taught how to identify artifacts and catalog artifacts. We were all learning together at some points, but that's what this field school is for. We all have a good sense of respect and appreciation for each other. So I'm happy to say I've formed new friendships and connections with people who have similar interests as me. In my experience, it's like one of the best things about this field school. Besides finding cool things, you know, stuff that's like thousands of years old. So kind of going off of what Kyle said, the field school gives me a sense of purpose. I'm now able to be a part of something bigger than just myself. When I joined, I didn't know I'd end up in Toronto at this conference. I thought it was just a summer job that provided students with a chance to earn money, but the field school is continuing to provide me with endless opportunities. Since the field school ended, I started at Algonquin College in Ottawa and taking the Pathways to Indigenous Empowerment program. It's a one-of-a-kind program that can help Indigenous students navigate their way through college or who don't know what career path they want. One of the classes I have to take is called Career Exploration, and every time I'm in there, I think about the field school and archaeology. I feel like that speaks for itself regarding what I want to do in the future. But I don't want to repeat the same things, but adding on to what Emma said, I want to give a big thanks to Ian, Bob, and Monica, the NCC archaeologists and overseers of our fieldwork. They were there through it all, and I want to say thank you. We have been gifted with irreplaceable knowledge that has been passed on through the years. So I want to say I appreciate their time and effort. The field school provided me with an enriching experience with fellow Indigenous youth. Pikwakanagan, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Brooke. Lastly, I'd like to read an experience from Lucas Barbeau, and unfortunately, he wasn't able to attend here, so I'm just going to be reading off what he was going to say. Pikwakanagan, my name is Lucas Barbeau. I am from Kitigan Zibi Anishinabeg. This is my first year working at Anishinabe Odjibikan, something I will forever be grateful for. Working at the field school has been a very holistic experience for me. It has aided in strengthening my mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health. Being on the land and by the river that has sustained our ancestors since time immemorial is such a surreal feeling. spending each day there and observing the ecosystem that exists on the shores of the Kitigan at the Kibeshnon site has also strengthened my connection to the land that has been weakened by being raised in an urban environment. This connection and the relationship to the land and the beings whom we share it with is an integral part of who we are as First Nations people, as Anishinaabe. Working alongside the members of my nation and community has also been a vital part of this experience for me at Anishinabe Odjibikan Archaeological Field School. There is something deeply profound about being a part of an initiative that is rescuing and recovering ancestral artifacts. These artifacts are more than just our historical heritage. They are tangible proof of Indigenous knowledge, innovation, and brilliance. They are memories of a time when our people were not hurt, when our people were living a beautiful existence prior to the arrival of the settlers. In harmony, balance, and a deep relationship with Mother Earth. A massive result of colonialization is the fracture of our collective culture, traditional knowledge, language, etc. Being the first people to uncover these artifacts and hold them in our hand since these items were last used is a very powerful experience. These artifacts have been preserved and cared for by the land in the same way our people have, since time immemorial. Preserved and protected the same very land. The artifacts we uncovered, largely intact, are very symbolic to the preservance and resilience of our people. Anishinabe Odjibikan Archaeological Field School is much more than just archaeology. It is the embodiment of returning to our traditional and reciprocal relationship with the land, trees, and water. It is the reclamation of our culture, reclamation of our heritage, knowledge, and ways of life. It is a reminder of who we are, our brilliance, a reminder of what our ancestors have endured, and what we as people continue to endure. Therefore, it is important that our field school continues their work and hopefully becomes a permanent installation and establishment in the archaeology world. Miigwech. So I hope everyone has gotten to understand through our experiences what this field school really means to us. So yeah, next I'd like to invite Jenna to talk about bringing our Anishinaabe culture to the NCC's public digs, which we participated in this last summer in August.
So this past August, during Archaeology Month, we had the opportunity to assess the NCC during their annual public archaeology dig. They've been holding this dig every year at Limi Lake Park, a site which is disappearing due to erosion, since 2014. They've been inviting the public to help recover artifacts and learn more about pre-contact history of the region. One of the special things we were able to do was bring our Anishinaabe culture to these digs. We invited master craftsman Daniel Pinook Smith to join us on weekends, where he displayed and explained our Anishinaabe craftworks. We also displayed our culture through a ceremony of a smudge and prayer, similar to what you've seen at the beginning of this presentation, along with traditional songs on hand drums, as well as incorporating our Anishinaabe language on field signs. Lastly, each of us got to share our experience as Anishinaabe youth one-on-one with the public.
Thank you, Jenna. So as you can see from these pictures here, is our ceremony. So on each site, we did an opening and closing ceremony with a smudge and prayer and a hand drum song, as Jenna said. And yeah, we had a water ceremony as well with my grandmother. So yeah. Thank you, Jenna, for explaining. Now we'll have Kyle come up and talk about our next steps and hopes for the future in reclaiming our past.
Thank you, Jenna, Jennifer. Anishinabe Odjibikan is an important step to the reclamation and management of our ancestral artifacts. Through our program, we will be training youth so that they may find themselves in archaeological assessments as informed and skilled individuals. We are generating interest in archaeology so that our youth may go on to pursue post-secondary education with regards to archaeology. Through gained interest, we can advocate for the protection and rescue of archaeological sites that face encroachment by human activity and erosion, as well as other impacts to the preservation of artifacts. As any young burgeoning program, we have goals in mind for the future. One such goal, as mentioned before, is to become fully established. As of today, we are a funded program. We have a maximum lifespan. It's for the next 2 years that we are funded. So there are a couple of challenges we face. The first is to find a permanent facility to house us, acting as an office, a storage area, and lab. We are currently able to use the NCC office space downtown in Ottawa, but the building is being demolished in 2023. There are many things that will go into trying to become an establishment, and a place to call home is the first step. After that, our next steps will be to find work, not in the sense that our program should make a profit, but that it should become an industry, not in this, something that would become self-sustaining until our work is complete, which may take thousands of years, you know. Another goal we have is the protection of Kabeshanan, a word meaning gathering or meeting place. We refer to the area around the shores of Ottawa, the Kitigan, but specifically in current context as the area around the mouth of the Gatineau River surrounding Limy Lake Park. This area, which was once a massive and instrumental trading hub, is endangered and rapidly declining due to impacts such as climate change and human activity. Artifacts have already and continue to be lost to erosion. There are many factors that contribute to the issue of erosion. Some may not be able to be changed, but we can mitigate through artifact rescue as well as be proactive in our management of these areas. We need to find support for ideas that would be implemented to reduce the damage caused on these sites, if not for the protection of the archaeological resources, then for the damage being done to ecology. The changing of the landscape is reducing habitat, growing areas for natural medicines, and permanently changing areas of the river, disrupting the landscape at an accelerated rate. To this end, we have begun to look for ways in which we can lead the effort in protecting this area. One such way is the idea of setting up infrastructure in Limy Lake Park, boardwalks, monitored areas, and a cultural center for visitors. These are all just ideas, but they are in the right direction. The direction we lean towards is making Kabeshanan a protected archaeological site, such as Head Smashed and Buffalo Jump or Petroglyph Park. These sites have gotten their designation and protection. There's no reason we should not be striving for the same. There's no other site in the capital region that is as rich or as important as the areas that we worked in this summer. The artifacts are practically and literally falling out of the ground. Now, obviously, at the time of this conference, we, myself especially, do not have all the answers. There will need to be a lot more high-level discussion on what is and isn't possible. But I hope we can leave here today with a sense of urgency and importance on these cases, on these causes, to these causes, sorry. I'd just like to speak a little bit. I don't have a lot written, but I'd like to speak about this anyways. One of the tools we're now able to utilize in the past couple of years are the articles outlined in UNDRIP and the TRC calls to action. Specifically, I won't say them all, but for the articles, Article 11, 32, 39, and 31, all can be addressed to what we are trying to achieve and what we are trying to protect. Article 11, Indigenous peoples have the right to practice and revitalize their cultural traditions and customs. This includes the right to maintain and protect and develop the past, present, and future manifestations of their cultures, such as archaeological and historical sites, artifacts, designs, ceremonies, technologies, and visual and performing arts and literature. The articles contained within the United Nations document is a political backing that we can use to identify when our rights are not being upheld, and as a tool for archaeological consultants to look to when they engage with First Nation communities. The Canadian Archaeological Association has put out a statement in which they acknowledge, endorse, and adopt the UNDRIP and TRC calls to action. Like I said, I don't have too much written on this, but I would just like to say that there are things out there now that have given us the ability to continue to do what we're doing, and in the future we can use it to continue to do more work. Next, I'd like to pass it back on to Jennifer, and she can introduce our next important slide. My bad, my bad. As a special request, I would like to invite Dr. Keisha Supernat. Earlier during this conference, she spoke about how development and building on our traditional lands, and in the process, destroying our heritage. So I'd like to invite her up to speak a little bit about that.
Tanse, Kisha Supernanitsika-tsan, Amiskutiwis Kaigan Otinia, Otipimisiwaknia. I am Keisha Supernant. I am a professor of anthropology and director of the Institute of Prairie and Indigenous Archaeology at the University of Alberta. I'm also the president of the Indigenous Heritage Circle as of 2 days ago. I'm also chair of the Canadian Archaeological Association's Working Group on Unmarked Graves. So I'm well connected. This is for all of you. Come talk to me. I find myself actually really emotional. My heart is so full hearing your words. So I want to say, Knas Gomten, thank you so much for sharing your stories, because they resonate a lot with my experience. I'm Métis. My family has very deep roots in Alberta, to Cree and Mohawk communities, and also back to Red River. And I work with my community's heritage and history. I hold the belongings of my ancestors. And the power of those belongings is so essential to our reconnection, to our healing from the trauma of colonization. It is a core part of that, recognizing the vibrant and amazing histories of our ancestors before they were disrupted by contact, colonialism, and genocide. So I just, this is really, to me, a beautiful example of what's possible when Indigenous peoples are able to enact our rights to our heritage in our own ways, where we can learn from the practices of things like archaeology. It could also be museology or archival work or language work. We can learn from what that can bring to that healing. But when it's done on our terms and in our ways, and bringing our culture, our ceremonies, our language to the work, to do the songs and ceremonies before, to have a panel like this opened in ceremony at a place like this. This is so powerful. So for me, when we're talking about the heritage reset, this is what we mean. This is it, right? And supporting this kind of work, because the areas that these folks are working in to protect their homeland, the places of their ancestors, are under threat from development. When you build on a place like this, you take this possibility away. And this is really important, both in terms of the current development, but also the history of how many places of our ancestors have been disrupted because they've been built on. And what's been lost to us from that, right? So the places where there still is this opportunity to go into the ground and to hold the belongings of our ancestors are very powerful and important places. And they are essential to our future as Indigenous people. So for those of you who are in this room, who have the capacity to help, one, to help this program continue, but also the essential understanding that those heritage places are the ones that matter to us. The places that hold the belongings of our ancestors, or hold the stories and the songs of our ancestors. Sometimes they don't have to have the artifacts. They don't have to have the material belongings. They hold our stories. They hold our knowledge. And this is what we want to protect. So as president of the Indigenous Heritage Circle, we're a national organization of Indigenous people who work in cultural heritage to protect and steward and advocate for our ability to care and our rights to care for our heritage. This is really what I want to see, right? This is the intervention that we want to make. This is the heritage reset. in action. So I just really want to amplify the voices of all these amazing youth, and I'm so inspired by all of you. And I also relate to the power of what this can bring. And also I want to encourage you to reach out to me at any time if you're interested in graduate school, whether with me or I also am well connected. I know most of the Indigenous archaeologists who work at universities in Canada. I know the programs, I can help. Because we need to support each other and we need to uplift each other who are doing this work, because it's actually could be really hard to find the support, to get the support that's needed, to get the space that's needed, to get the people to come in and help. And I really want to honor the folks who are in positions like Ian and the other folks that were mentioned, who are using their positions to help create these spaces. Because sometimes we need those allies, we need those co-conspirators to open up those doors that give us the space that we need. So I really appreciate Doug inviting me to speak here. I don't want to take up too much time from this amazing group of youth, but I want to just emphasize my full and unequivocal support for this work. And I hope you take away from this an opportunity to try to support this in whatever way that you can. So hi, and thank you, and thanks to all of you.
Thank you, Keisha. We haven't officially got to meet, but that was great. Thank you. So now I'd like to invite up Jenny Tenasco to talk about the culture and language.
Pikwakanagan. Jenny Buckshot Tenasco Indigenous. Ni Gidija ni Donjaba Kitigan Zibi. Ni Gija Kwaya Ojik Habitagig Pikwakanagan. This, I'm saying that I am a residential school survivor. And traveling with these youth took 4 hours from Ottawa to Toronto. And 64 years ago, it took 4 days for me to get to Kenora, Ontario. And I was only 6 years old. But this train ride was different. It was a happy time to be with them, to see them enjoying themselves and talking about what they were coming to do here. So but I would also like to thank Elder Gary Sue for welcoming us to this Anishinaabe territory. I am an Algonquin from Kitigan Zibi, and I'm so proud that youth from our nation are building capacity within archaeology. We are pushing for the decolonization of schools and the decolonization of archaeology. It is long overdue that all places of learning, that all fields of study, that all employers and all places of work learn about Indigenous people, build compassion for Indigenous people, and collaborate with Indigenous people. All schools in this country need to support First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people to get to the highest level of education, to reach their potential. When Indigenous people succeed, Canada succeeds. In archaeology, our youth are reconnecting with our traditional land, identity, and connecting with their history, learning about archaeology and preparing for their futures. This is very exciting and a beautiful sight to see. And from the workshops yesterday, I've heard about heritage buildings. And I would just like to share something that I've experienced just lately. As a residential school survivor, we met with people from Ottawa about a religious heritage building. And they were thinking about using this building to bring in artifacts to work on. But because this building was a nunnery, I guess, where nuns were, and there was a chapel right in the middle. So this was very disturbing for us survivors. And we said, no, it's not a good place. These artifacts have spirits, and it's not a place for them. You need to find another place. So hopefully they do, because they need to move to another building soon. And this is what I wanted to share with you today. Miigwech.
Miigwech, Jenny, for sharing. Next, I'd like to invite up my grandmother, Joan Tanasco, to talk about the language and education and the importance around that. So.
Kwe kakena, ininidok ikwedok, weshkinidiek. John Commander Tanasco Nadijinikas, Kitigan Zibi Anishinabeg, Kitigan Zibi Anishinabeg Taugik, Ejigiwednong Odawang. Ayanda Sobibon Eko Dashi Kamana Anishinabe Muin. Miigwech Kidinanum Gakineon de Jedanizieg Nongum. Miigwech Denag Ogog Weshkinigijik. Ogog. Weshkinigijik kaye Oshkigigango kaye Oshkinaweg. Pikwakanagan ing Wenjabajik kaye Kitigan Zibi Wenjabajik. Anishinabe Wakikang kakine Wenjabayang. Ogog Ejinakazajik Anishinabe Odjibikan. Kaye Ogog Nigokamisinanik kaye Nimishumasinanik. Kaye Ogog Kete Nijin Wendagananik Kamajajik. Kaye Ogog Egamashenagajik. Hello everyone. My name is Joan Kamana Tanasco, and I was born and raised in Kitigan Zibi, north of what we call Odawa, Arwa. Miigwech Jenny Gidabadadaman residential school. I'm thanking her for speaking of the residential school survivors. And yes, we had a good time on our ride. We rode backwards all the way to Toronto yesterday on the train. It took us a while to go straight the other night. So I have always worked in education. I became a school teacher at a very young age. The encouragement came from my grandparents who raised me. And I was saved from going to residential school. My older siblings were all taken and all went to residential school. So I'm always grateful and thankful that I was raised by grandparents. I've always worked in curriculum. I taught it for many, many years, Anishinabe Algonquin language, and I continue to do so to this day. And I knew at a very early age that I would be heavily involved in language. I thank you all for being here, especially our sister community, Pikwakanagan. I am so honored. I am so proud. And of our Kitigan Zibi youth. Our Anishinabe language comes from the creator, Gejemanado, which connects us to the spiritual power of our land in which we live, our language, our culture, our teachings, and the knowledge that is handed down from our ancestors. And this way we pass it on to our young so that they will pass it on to theirs and to those who have yet to be born. To be present at the digging sites with our youth, to see them, to feel, to touch the objects that they were touching was a truly heartfelt experience for me. The joy in their eyes, I saw their spirits come alive, and the fire was lit within. This is probably your calling. So it is up to you. And I encourage you to continue. I feel blessed to have been a part of this archaeology group. I was honored to help and support and encourage our youth field school workers throughout the summer. Archaeology is Anduanakewin in our language, and it is of great importance to our people, our collective future, and to building capacity within our Anishinaabe Algonquin nation. Our people have walked on this turtle island for thousands of years and continue to do so. There are many museums that hold our artifacts and sacred objects. These items need to come home and be reunited in our communities where they originated, so that we can house them with love and respect and continue to tell our stories. In our community of Kitigan Zibi, history, our language and stories and our spirituality was always oral. It was for this reason that we made a decision to document it in any way we can. The priority was to write it, and we created a spelling system. And as we were becoming school teachers, we were working at the same time. That was difficult to do. We then created curriculum while teaching, and we recorded our elders. I'm very grateful we did that. Now we have all their stories that we can pass on, and which we did the translations into the English language. In 1972, the native language teachers, we were hired to start teaching Algonquin language in the provincial schools, elementary and secondary. 1980, we built our own community school, and we began our Algonquin language classes. In 1988, an Algonquin partial immersion program we had put in place with land-based learning and continues to this day. We are now only 4 people working on the language back home, as our elders have come to pass, and those that are still having the language are quite elderly and are not well. We have a language circle where we continue to work with our elders, and we form new words for our existing lexicon. We rename our original territory lakes all along the way to the city of Ottawa and in Ottawa itself. Museums and land acknowledgements in those areas. We are now focusing on second language learners, as we are only so few and our language is in a very dangerous situation. Since then, we have a few teachers, second language learners, who are teaching at the university, for example, the University of Ottawa. We have been inviting university professors to come to our community to participate in our land-based activities to better understand our Anishinaabe nation and our youth that they will be teaching in the future in their universities. All in all, we have come a long way. We are not going anywhere. We are here to stay. Miigwech to Douglas Ojik, our band council member, to your commitment, because I know it comes from the heart, to education, to language, and our culture. Miigwech. To Ian, Miigwech, and your wonderful team, Monica, Bob, sorry if I forgot anybody else. Miigwech, your commitment, your expertise is truly appreciated by all of us. Miigwech. Miigwech.
So thank you to my grandmother for talking. And thank you to Jenny. There are elders who came with us today. We all took the train together and yeah. So with that, I'd like to conclude our presentation. And I hope that everyone has come to understand how important this is to us and what it's done for us. We just want to say thank you so much for listening and for paying attention and letting us be here, etc. And thank you to everyone who supported us coming here and proposal writing and everything else. So thank you, Kichimi Gwach. We really hope that we can continue this work and do our best in what we do, I guess. So with that being said, we just like to go into our Q&A. If anyone has any questions. We covered everything. Yeah, so I guess if no one has any questions. Yes. Yeah, sorry, I said it at the beginning. Yeah, no, it's okay. Anishinabe Odjibikan means Anishinabe roots. And so, and I said it at the beginning, but we chose that name because it's like our ancestral roots, as well as literally we're digging into the roots of our Mother Earth. And that kind of goes in with our logo that we have here. So we have the Mother Earth and then kind of her roots. And then we have her holding the mokomon, which is kind of started this whole project here. So yeah, Anishinabe roots technically. But Anishinabe Odjibikan. We would like to revitalize our language, and so we wanted to go with Anishinabe Moin name. So, yes. Yes.
Miigwech, is the field school associated with any current post-secondary education?
No.
Would having a partnership with a post-secondary,
Yes.
not that I'm with, but I just want to know how others could support the continuation of the field school.
Last year in year one, we've connected with the Algonquin College. So they've provided us space to do the lab work. They've took an interest, but the lead dean, who we were communicating with, has left that position. So now we're just waiting to communicate with the new dean that's in charge of museology. So it is museology that they have at Algonquin. So we want to find a way to incorporate the artifacts and archaeology along with their museology program. So we're working on twisting their arms somehow or another.
I'll bend here easier again if I can,
Okay. Cool. So it's that answers, yeah? Good.
This is just a comment. I wanted to thank you. You did all such a wonderful job. It's by far the best one I've attended and very moving. Really, really moving, and you have such a bright future.
Thank you, Miigwech, for your kind words.
Yeah, I just wanted to say the same thing, just to say thank you. Thank you. Just grateful to hear your perspective and your personal stories and sharing them and being vulnerable. And honestly, I'm so excited. I've reviewed so many archaeological assessments in my day. I'm so excited I might be reading more written from an Indigenous perspective. with that personal connection, and it just gives me so much hope for the future. And you know, after archaeology, there's architecture, and there's planning, and there's landscape architecture. Like, so don't stop there. Keep going. Thank you.
Miigwech, thank you.
Also, just a comment. My name's Alan. I work at Wanuskewin Heritage Park. So 6,400 years of archaeology there. That's the basis for that interpretive center. And we are, I know that the staff and our visitor services are really working hard to have more Indigenous interpretive guides. And so this is so exciting because there's biology students, there's Indigenous studies students, all different students that are getting experience in archaeology. And it's something that I know that Wanuskewin is trying to do more of. So if you want to move to Saskatchewan and have a job at Wanuskewin, yeah, check out our website, because I know they're always looking for really good qualified staff. So thanks.
Thank you, Miigwech. Yeah, I think I covered that before. Like, our group here, like, we have like different interests and ideas and strengths, and we all touch upon like our own individual kind of strengths here. And you know, we really come together and we build this field school. So that's a good point. Thank you.
Wanuskewin is also a cultural center. There's art galleries. There's many other things there. Yeah, so it's multidisciplinary.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Dina Doroshenko. I'm the senior archaeologist for the Ontario Heritage Trust, and I have to say that you guys were absolutely amazing. It's wonderful to see a field school that is meant for Indigenous youth to explore their heritage. As an archaeologist for, well, almost as long as Ian, but I am slightly younger. He knows it. I have been, you know, like hoping for too many decades that something like this would start to take place, because I experienced something back in the early 80s when I was a TA on an archaeological field school, and we had some Indigenous people come and visit the school, and I had a moment with a gentleman who was holding a projectile point, and that literally my hair was much shorter. The hairs on the back of my neck went up because I saw the connection, and I just love the fact that this is happening. It just has taken too long to reconcile this. But one of the things I wanted to mention as well is that the trust has started a internship program for Indigenous youth and young professionals. It's named after Harvey McHugh. And I would love to see if that's some way we can perhaps partner with the nations involved to see if that helps support the program. And I'd like to follow up with whoever that I can in the next coming months or years.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Yeah, I know my grandmother would always come visit the sites, and she'd say, "Oh, you're so lucky you get to do this." Because if I was, if this happened a couple decades ago, like she would take advantage of that. And we definitely were so grateful for this opportunity, and we like to take advantage of this opportunity for sure. So, yeah. Any more questions? Okay. I guess that concludes our session here, presentation. So miigwech, thank you all for being here. And yeah, thank you. Miigwech.